All right, guys, we are back for another exciting adventure through Britain. We continue our book club of The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. If you want the author bio, well, I highly encourage you to go back and watch last week to get all of that information. But for now, we're going to keep this thing moving. Robert, give us a quick reminder of where we are at.
So previously we read chapters 1 through 7. We were introduced to our protagonist, Colum. He wanted to be knighted by King Arthur and become a knight of the Round Table. He fights an unnamed knight to the death, who many of us on this show predicted is Lancelot himself. Colum meets a fairy woman at the end who gives him a prophecy, and when Colum arrives in Camelot, he finds out that King Arthur is dead, and all that remains of the knights is a small order of lesser important characters. We get a bit of backstory into Bedivere, Arthur's right-hand man, who was in love with Arthur but knew it would never be returned, so he vowed to serve Arthur as his protector. And then the knights gathered around the table and prayed for a miracle so they could begin a new quest, which led to the wall of the hall disappearing and revealing a vast dark forest.
Yes, and in case you don't remember, this in here is tagged fantasy. It's retellings, mythology, historical fantasy, science fiction fantasy. And, you know, we've been seeing some magic here in these last few chapters. So,
yeah, dude, I did enjoy that. I like the the way the magic has been working in this world. It's trippy. Like you alluded to at the top of the show, some of the knights get powers and they kind of go into that. But one thing, I'm a fan of the backstories, like getting the history and the characters. And in those chapters, I like learning more about these lesser known Knights of the Round Table. I didn't like it so much when I was like, man, this wall revealed. What is in this wall? What is coming out of that forest? But then I get Bedivere Part 3 before I get to find out what's coming out of the forest.
Yeah. Yeah, I second that. I enjoy the backstories. Definitely. We've only had, counting this section and last week's, we've only had Bedivere and now Palamedes. But so far, it's great because it introduces these guys as like the dregs of the Round Table. Like they're the less known guys. The people who are just there.
Yeah,
and it's introducing them, and they're like they got to step up to the occasion, and you get to figure out and find out who they are. So I think that's really cool.
Well, one thing I think is really cool about that is even though they are those lesser knowns, there's still so much respect on their name in this book. Like, I mean, they're still bad, like they're still knights and
they're metal.
Yeah, they're metal, bro. They're metal.
Yeah.
Like they earn their spot at the Round Table, and I think even when Colin first got to, and we talked about this last week a little, but when he first got to Camelot, it felt as if like when you started meeting these knights and they're talking about, well, we're the low of the low, kind of thing. I'm like, oh, well, here we go. I wasn't sure what to expect from them. I was kind of thinking they were going to be, because they talked down on themselves. I thought it was kind of going to be like a clown show, but these dudes are still bad. I mean, they're still going out and doing the thing. So
yeah, they still make every other, knight or person they come across seem like insignificant.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So before I dive more into this, Dylan, did you read these chapters? Or are you caught up with us?
Listen, I'm on chapter 8.
Hey, you made.
I'm a little behind.
Hey, bro.
All right, dude. So this chapter sees Bedivere and Arthur go on the quest for the Red Knight. They go to a four-gated castle. Arthur has to fight a knight made out of blue flame. It was a really cool chapter. I love the magic that exists in this world. I like Bedivere like coaching Arthur from the sidelines in the fight. And then they go in the castle. They meet a woman and a man. And there was another cool story there as well.
Yeah, the Blue Flame Knights, what do they call them? The Flame Brothers or whatever.
Yeah, and they all go. There's 4 of them. They all guarded one of the gates. I really think because it says, Arthur cuts the guard in the neck, and it just starts spewing out fire and like superheated fire, and he burns his face. So that's really cool. The magic is, like you said, really cool. And the other part is that which we'll probably get into it with the people inside the castle, is a lot of the magic has to do with curses too. Like people being cursed comes up a lot too, which is I feel like a part of Magic that you don't see a lot.
I think the thing the magic in this that I like is that it's not like super over the top. It almost feels a little Lord of the Rings, EverQuest kind of vibes where, you know, you go in, there is magic, there is mystical things that happen, but it's not like crazy. You know, like it's not like every corner is like a mystical beasts and all that kind of stuff. It feels very, I don't know, realistic would not be the right word, but it just feels very well done and feels tasteful. Like it's placed in moments where it feels like it should be. And like the Flame Bros were really cool. And I like that scene. I like when Arthur is hugging it and he just feels the heat through the armor. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, these dudes really are just like, and just the picture of like the flames coming from all of the crevices of the armor itself. And just kind of the way that he describes that is very, very cool.
Yeah, I think mentioning the curses like Keaton brought up, you know, the curse in this was like the land is dead, it's desolate because King Bran of this castle picked up the spear that was said to pierce Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when he picked the spear up, it turned on him and pierced both his legs and just, you know, I guess it left him for dead. And his kids were looking for Arthur to like heal him. And Arthur decided he was going to like try and pick up the spear, and him and Bedivere had a really cool back and forth there on like, why would God put a spear in front of a man that he cannot pick up? And then Arthur like couldn't heal the guy, so he started questioning his own purities. And that whole chapter and the things they went into with that, it was really, really cool. And ultimately it ended up with like Arthur kind of kills the king to get him out of his misery. And then he just strolls out of the castle like the G he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked as they were leaving the castle, they were like, really, did we do the right thing? And Arthur, it really, just like you said, in Bedivere's, you get a different look at Arthur and like his emotions and just how he is, you know, away from being a knight, because Bedivere and him are like, you know, best friends, maybe not best friends, you know, the closest friends, you know. And so you get that deeper relationship. And then as they're leaving, you see it goes from this barren, desolate land, and then immediately, you know, as they're going, everything, you know, the land starts to grow back and they hear birds and they see the stars again. And just, you know, a part of that magic, just like kind of, Lev Grossman, he describes it in a really good way, I think. The mystical and the fantastical stuff.
He does.
Has to do with the magic.
Yeah, and then I liked at the end, too, when Bedivere, he was, like, wondering what it would be like to look whole again, and the way Lev was describing, like, what was going on in his head, and the whole time he's pondering, like, you know, he wishes he could be whole, and on one side of that, he would be whole if, like, Arthur would reciprocate the love he has for him, but then on the other part, he's looking at his missing arm while he's talking about it, too. So there's a lot of plays on things. It was a really, really stellar standout flashback chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in this series of readings, I really, really like the character. I don't know if we're ready to go into this yet, but I'll just jump in. Is the Palamedes? I thought was a really cool character. I like his backstory as well.
Yeah,
where he came from. Kind of just seeing that he was like where his homeland. He was kind of like a forgotten son kind of vibe. And decides to go. Camelot's not what he expected it to be. And from what it sounds like, Camelot paled in comparison to his homeland, you know, but and then it goes to talk to me, not only is his character cool, but then it goes on to build upon the legacy of Arthur, because even though he's saying like, hey, Camelot is okay. You know, even talking about the rose garden, you can walk through it in 15 steps, whereas they had like 150 acres of rose garden.
He called Camelot a dump. He's like, this place is trash.
Yeah,
he did.
Oh yeah.
And so he's talking about that. But then when he sees Arthur and he sees like the respect that he commands and the way that he leads and all these things, he's like, oh man, that's just like something I've never seen before. It's seen a person like this. And so not only does it start his character and obviously like he's a stellar knight himself, but then it just it continues to build upon the character of Arthur and who he is, and what kind of leader, what kind of king he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like how in Palamedes' backstory, it talks about the giant silver tree that they have and where he's from, and it's got like thousands of branches, and it has little mechanical birds that flap its wings and sing. And then you have in Camelot, their great tree is a giant round table.
Yeah.
So just the comparison between where he's from and Camelot, like you said, is vastly different than what he's used to.
He was out there with some of the ladies of the court, and some bandits happened upon him. And my man showed those bandits what was up. And then, what was it? Isolde. I don't know.
I have no idea how to pronounce the name.
Justin, you listened to the audio book. Hit us.
That's a great question. I just remember they talked a lot about her eyebrows.
All right. Yeah. So eyebrow lady. We'll go with Isolde for now. I'm going to go look up the actual pronunciation, but he fell in love with her, and that's kind of what kept him there. So that was pretty cool. He had like a reason to stay.
Yeah. And that action scene goes to show like the fight scenes in this so far of what we've seen. And we haven't seen like tons. We have seen quite a few though. There's been plenty of action. But dude, like the fact that like my man, shoves a sword halfway through somebody's neck, pulls it out, and then stabs another dude straight through the heart.
Yeah.
My man was getting it done, bro. 3v1.
Isolde is her name.
Isolde the Beautiful. I like how in the fights you see that it's very like it talks about the sword fighting in a technical way.
Yeah.
Like it makes me think like I could sword fight because it describes it in like such a technical way, and the different guard positions whenever what is it? Callum is fighting the Green Knight. And whenever Palamedes fights some more on a jousting.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess while we're in the flashback moment, we can just continue with Palamedes. Like you see another chapter with him, and he does the jousting. Or wait, no, that wasn't in his flashback.
No.
His other flashback chapter, he went on a quest, like the questing beast. He was after a half leopard, half lion,
with a snakehead.
Yeah, he went on that quest to take his mind off Isolde because he couldn't love her. She was like married to someone else, but she was in love with the guy's son Tristram. And
it was she was married to the king of Cornwall, but she was in love with another knight, Sir Tristram or something like that.
Yeah.
So
he was like, man, I'm never going to be it. Like, I'm an outsider in this land. I love this girl who obviously is never going to love me back. So he felt like a weird kinship because the questing beast could never be captured. And it was also an outsider in the land. So he like chased this thing forever. And then he ended up like in a duel with Tristram. And Tristram beat this dude senseless. And imagine getting so wrecked. And you're from an outside of a nation this dude clapped you up so bad. Not only when he was finished with you, he drug you to the church and baptized you, son. He said you belong to Christianity now, son. That's what happened to Palamedes.
He got disrespected for sure.
Oh, 100%, bro. 100%.
I mean, dude, it was, yeah. But
I give to him though. He didn't, he didn't stop. He was in love with this girl and he was going to try to get her. So
yeah, he's gonna try, and Tristram ends up dead. Like I guess Isolde's husband kills him, and then she kind of like falls on him and dies, also in sorrow. Mm-hmm. So Palamedes just kind of followed Lancelot when he broke off, and that whole siege happened, and then it kind of went to that last battle of Camlin and what Palamedes was up to when that was going on. And that was another really cool like backstory. I don't know if we're going to get any more Palamedes backstory. I was actually surprised we got a third Bedivere, but if we were going to get any more Bedivere, I could see it because of the Arthur stuff. But I feel like this last backstory of Palamedes kind of wrapped up his story pretty nicely.
I think so too. Yeah, I don't see us getting much more in depth with him outside of like what's currently happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
Because what it ended with him following the questing beast into the forest. So it's like, okay, there we go.
Yep.
And I think for this chunk, that was all our backstory. So we can go present day if one of you guys want to kick off probably the best chapter we've read.
Yeah, bro.
Stuff.
I can do it.
Go for it, Keaton.
Are you talking about the Green Knight?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So it was they had fasted their lunch or their dinner. I don't remember which one it was, because in the old time, before when King Arthur was alive, supposedly they would they would not eat, and then a miracle from God would happen. And so they did this. Column brought up this idea, and they did it they didn't want to do it because they were all hungry and they were tired and they just wanted to eat, but they did it. And Nimue, I don't know, new character Nimue, the Merlin's apprentice, she woke him up, and then there was a giant veil, giant trees and snow and all sorts of stuff. And they see a horse and a person on this horse. They're coming towards them, and they get up, and it happens. Bedivere says, "That's a Green Knight." They're all wondering who it is. Bedivere's like, "That's a Green Knight." And he's like, "You can fight me. I got something to tell you, but you have to beat me before I can tell you." So it starts all that.
Yeah, he's like, I have a secret to tell, but only if I'm bested in combat. And then our homie Villers, with his main character syndrome, he's like, yeah, dude, I got this. Let's go.
My man had a bear helmet.
He did. Hey,
He
bro.
did.
He had main character syndrome, bro. He thought he was gonna. He
had
thought he was gonna
main
do
character
something.
energy, though, too, bro. He wouldn't have made it there.
Yeah, bro. His main character energy got him waxed up, bro. We got Game of Thrones right off the rip.
But for him, though, they wouldn't have figured out how to beat it, though.
That's fair. That's fair. So Villers loses, y'all. Villers gone. He out the story. There's not going to be any Villers flashbacks. He got absolutely annihilated.
Yeah,
he got
stabbed.
chopped. He got throat chopped, like literally.
Yeah, stabbed through the neck. Yeah, I think. And then he was on the ground bleeding out, and one of the other knights came up.
Spoiler alert, Dylan.
One of the other knights came up, started pulling his helmet off, and realized that like the wound on his neck was so bad that he just left the helmet on instead of taking it fully off. He's like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
So like Column is naturally the hero of the story. So who else is going to best the Green Knight than this little scrub who just became a Knight of the Round Table?
And he used a crafty little move that he used against his little bullies.
Schoolboy moves.
Schoolboy moves.
And it worked, dude. He did his little maneuvers to outnumber, and he bested the Green Knight. I mean, the Green Knight beat him up pretty good, but he lived. And then
bruised his rib and then hit him in like the shoulder. I dislocated his shoulder, maybe.
Yeah. So the Green Knight reveals his secret, which the Green Knight's so cool, dude. When he took his took his helmet off, he's made out of leaves and twigs, and like some kind of ferret is controlling him.
And he's Groot, bro. Rocket and Groot.
Yeah, dude. Hey, perfect. And from now on, he's Rocket and Groot. And
Rocket and Groot.
He lets everyone know, hey, like one of the Knights of the Round Table still alive, like one of the good ones, not one of you scrubs, like a legit one.
That's exactly what he said too.
That is exactly what he said. And that even comes into play a little bit more in chapter 14 too.
And so like the Knights are like, okay, well, we're going to have to like go on a quest to find this other knight. And Nimue lets them all know because they're like, where's Merlin? And she's like, he's in a hill. I left him there. That's where he's at. He's chilling. So the Knights were like, well, we need like a new sword in the stone so we can crown a king. And then the Knights kind of discuss like who of their old order could live. And almost all of them think it's Lancelot, which kind of made all of us look terrible for thinking Lancelot's already in the ground.
I was going to bring that up, but you already did.
Yeah, I got you, dude. So,
we'll stay strong with our predictions,
Hey, dude, I'm gonna stay strong with it.
He could be dead. You don't know.
You never know.
I guess the cool thing that happened before they set off on their adventure, they finally Colin finally got knighted. Like they were like, yeah, bro, we're gonna knight you. And then Bedivere, Dinadan, the Green Knight, Sir Palamedes, and Colin set off on their adventure. So I feel like this is where the book really just started. Like the Green Knight chapter on, like if we weren't doing a book club style on this and I wasn't like sticking true to it, I'd probably just knock this thing out in a weekend.
Great book. I mean, so far this is right up the alley of what we started this podcast to do. It is very fantasy driven, but it's a very good story. Really, really enjoying. The Green Knight is an amazing character. It's that nice magical mystical. When I play Magic the Gathering, I like to run green decks, so he's a green deck character. You know what I mean?
And
You know,
this being like a side by side story with King Arthur is a lot of stuff that you can easily relate to. Be like, oh, I knew that, or just exploring the world more than what's already been explored is really cool.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree, dude.
Do it.
The quest begins. Green Knight's leading the heroes. They run into Queen Guinevere. She's like a nun now after her fall from grace. And she also mentioned Lancelot. So that kind of gave credits to the rumor he's alive. And then, the Palamedes jousting there. Keaton talked about. I'll let him have it.
Yeah, he was jousting. They came upon Dinadan. Is that how you say, Sir Dinadan?
They came upon Scipio.
Yeah. So the guy who can see really far, he's got the power to see really far. The night he saw from a distance 2 guys riding down a hill, and he's like, "There's a naked dude on the back of that horse, and it's our boy Sir Scipio." And so they rolled up on these 2 dudes with Sir Scipio, and they were like, "We saw him stealing from the battle. Like he was looting corpses, and that's not for knightly code. He's not following the knightly code. So we're taking him in to get ransom money." And they were like, "I think 10 pounds will do," which back then is a lot,
Mm-hmm.
That'd be like $10 now, but 10 pounds back then is quite a lot of money. And Bedivere was like, "Shove off, we're not giving you anything. Sir Palamedes here is just going to joust you." And it just shows his proficiency in fighting and from where he was raised and all the stuff that he was able to do. He completely destroys this dude in jousting. They get Sir Scipio, and that leads him into, now they're back on his quest. They got an extra knight. He wasn't the one that goes back to talk to, this one of the big knights is the one that's alive, not one of these regular Joe Schmoes. And they're back on their mission, and Bedivere starts talking about how Arthur might be the one that's still alive. I don't know if we want to get into that.
Well, he taught, just like they visited his tombstone, and Bedivere kind of was like, "Hey, a magical barge came for Arthur. He's going to go to Avalon." They think the people in Avalon can fix his head, fix his wound. And then on his tombstone, it reads, "Here lies Arthur, king that was and king that will be." So it's kind of like prophesizing, maybe Arthur is going to come back. And then the last thing that we really got into was Colum gets reunited with the fairy back from chapter 2, or so he thinks, and he ends up in the other world, and he runs into Morgan Le Fay, which was King Arthur's half sister, who he had the kid with. And Morgan's like, "Hey, the knight you're looking for is down here in the other world." And then she leaves Colum, and he's floating on a raft down a stream, and he's seeing all these things, kind of hallucinating while he's doing it. And I don't know what's real or fake at this point. I was just happy to be there for the ride.
Yeah.
It was a really cool chapter.
I think this is really where the magic shines, because this is all magic. The other world is like the magic realm.
Right.
And he's there, and he doesn't know how he got there. He says he crosses the invisible line, the invisible barrier, and he's scared out of his mind. He wants to leave this place. He wants to get out of here. But Morgan Le Fay's like, "You better stay on this raft,
Yeah.
He went to this building, and then suddenly it started floating down a river. He wants to get out of there. And I really liked how, as he was going on this river, he saw a giant. He saw Roman soldiers who got lost there. They just thought they're still traveling. They're trying to make it to their battle. And it's been
they still think
hundreds
Rome's
of years.
Around. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing to note is he runs into a knight, Sir Ganondal, and that's not the knight they were looking for. That one was brought up too. But one thing Ganondal did that was cool before he disappeared, he asked Colum if he's seen the Knight of the Three Scepters. And if you remember, that was the mystery knight he fought in chapter 1, had the 3 scepters on his shield. So I was interested in that. We didn't really get any more, just like a little snippet to be like, hey, don't forget this knight he fought in chapter 1's important, kind of like a throwback deal. And then Colum sees like a castle made out of glass, and he makes his way towards it, and that's where we left off this week. If you read along with us, you were now on chapter 15. That's where we all are.
They were definitely dangling that knight with the 3 scepters in front of our faces, trying to show us something for sure.
Yeah, because it's still Lancelot. I'm gonna
It's staying true.
staying true to what I said last week. All right, you guys ready to get in this lightning round?
Let's go, dude.
All right, let's do it. You guys know the deal. We'll go through this one answer each one of these questions. First thing on the docket here is, what do you think the S on Column's sword stands for, Keaton?
Super.
Nice, like Super Saiyan.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, S caliber, S tier caliber.
He's at S tier.
Robert, what do you think?
Man, I can't even venture a guess, dude. It's something that's just been stuck in my brain because they brought it up like twice now. And it has to be something sort of significance, or the author wouldn't like mention it. So maybe it has something to do with his true heritage. I think you said last week you thought he was going to be like of the same lineage as Arthur somewhere along the way. Maybe it has something to do with that, dude.
They definitely I feel like they definitely alluded to that too in this set of chapters.
Yeah,
How he might possibly be another one because, going back, Guinevere couldn't have kids. They couldn't have kids. So he possibly could have had another one.
He's Lancelot and Guinevere's kid.
Like his dad. Could be.
All right, Dylan, what do you think, bro? You got an opinion on this?
I think it stands for silencer.
Ooh.
Because it silences all of his ops.
Hey, I like Dylan's answer.
There it is. All right, next question. The Green Knight claims the knight yet lives. Which knight do you think is still alive, Robert?
So I want to say the knights are onto something with King Arthur yet lives, but he's a king, not a knight. So I'm going to say Sir Gawain for no other reason than when we started this book last week, I researched some Arthurian legends, and there's literally one called Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So that's my guess.
That's a good story too.
It is a cool story, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, Keaton?
My guess, my favorite knight is Percival. Sir Percival. That's who I think it is, because he's my favorite. The one who the Holy Grail.
I'm just going to go with Robert's answer. I don't know.
I'm gonna take Robert's answer. I don't think it's Lancelot because he's dead. All right.
Or my second guess is one that we have not met yet, has never been talked about.
That's a wildly good odds guess.
Yeah,
Yep.
Way to play it safe.
It's an knight we have not met yet. So, I mean,
I wonder who it is.
the chances of that are 95%. Good job, Keaton. All right, so here we go.
Sticking to what I know.
Keaton, you can answer this one first. If you could have a knightly power, what would you want? We've seen people with like eyesight. We've seen people be able to leap. We heard that Lancelot never has to take a dump. So if you
I could imagine that one of the knight's powers would be that they can use any weapon at an expert level. I think that would be mine.
I think I'm taking Keaton's answer on this one.
Dylan,
2 for 2.
2 for 2. Dylan, please just take everybody's answer for the remainder of this. Robert?
All right, bro, I'm going to go ahead and take Sir Galahad, because Sir Galahad was the best knight in the world. He was perfect. He was holy. He was the only one who got to actually hold the Holy Grail and ascend into heaven. I am Sir Galahad.
Your knightly power is Sir Galahad.
That's right. I'm perfect and holy. That's my power.
I think of all the time you would save never having to take a slam. It sounds like a pretty good power. You know what I mean? Think of all the activities you could do if you didn't have to take slams. So,
But does that mean you still don't feel like you have to? What if you feel like you really have to, but you can't?
That's part of the power.
Hey, bro, part of the carnivore diet, I only go like maybe once a day.
And there's some information you didn't know you needed about Dylan.
Robert, what do you think awaits Colum in the glass castle? I like once a day. You act like once a day is not like semi-normal. I mean, that's fairly normal.
That's pretty normal.
Dude, Dylan was sitting here eating ice cream for breakfast beforehand.
I have two guesses for the Glass Castle. I think it's going to be a phantom form of King Arthur, like guiding him where to go next. Or it's going to be the knight that the Green Knight says is alive because Morgan Le Fay said, hey, he's down here.
Kiwi?
I think it is Morgan Le Fay in the castle.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right, guys. As always, we need to have our last 3 words. We'll start with Robert.
Sure. Dylan's bowel movements.
So you go, Keaton.
I haven't thought of, I didn't think about this at all.
I got one. Rocket and Groot.
Nice.
Rocket and Groot. Dylan, what are yours?
I didn't read.
Duel me, coward.
I'm not surprised.
Nice.
All right. So